They warned me this choice would end the Dominion.
Then let's prove every one of them wrong.
Far above the turning of mortal worlds, in a place that had no true name, the observation tier kept its endless vigil. They were not gods. They did not interfere. They only watched 10,000 civilizations rise, quarrel, and fade, recording every choice a species made, so that the archive of the galaxy would never forget who had been wise and who had been foolish. On this cycle, their countless eyes turned toward the hive world of Thren, where the Kryllion Dominion prepared for its most sacred ritual, the choosing. Thren's throne chamber glittered like the inside of a geode, its crystal walls humming with the collected breath of 10,000 drones. Queen Veskera sat upon the bone throne, her chitinous crown catching torchlight in 100 colors. Before her knelt 3 champions of the Dominion, Lord Kothrax, a war general whose armor was forged from the exoskeletons of conquered enemies, Lady Sevri, a mind-weaver who could unravel a rival's thoughts like thread, and Prince Dorn, heir to the neighboring hive, offering an alliance sealed in blood. Any one of them would make the Dominion stronger. The observation tier had already logged the outcome as certain. Behind a support pillar, unnoticed by nobility, stood a 4th figure, smaller, softer, entirely wrong for that room. Kale Ward had crash-landed on Thren 11 months earlier, the sole survivor of a human survey ship torn apart by debris. The hive had kept him as a curiosity, then as a translator, because he alone among them had learned to speak both Kryllion dialects fluently within a season. He carried no weapon, wore no armor, and by every metric the tier used to measure worth, he was the weakest being in that chamber. He was there only to record the ceremony for the hive archives, never expecting to be seen. Queen Veskera rose. The chamber fell silent enough to hear Crystal breathe. "I have watched 3 great champions kneel before me," she said, "and I have watched one small human stand quietly at the edge of my court, asking nothing, expecting nothing, yet giving this hive more honesty than any noble ever has." She stepped past Kothrax, past Sevri, past Dorn, and stopped before Kale. "I choose the human." Gasps rippled through the chamber like cracking ice. Far above, in the observation tier, alarms that had not sounded in 3,000 cycles began to flare. A being of pure light, one of the tier's eldest record-keepers, logged the event with something close to disbelief. Species designation, human. Political power, none. Military strength, none. Strategic value, none. It intoned. "This is the worst decision this tier has ever witnessed. The Kryllion Dominion has just chosen extinction." Below, on Thren, Lord Kothrax rose from his knees, rage twisting his mandibles. "You dishonor 10,000 years of tradition," he snarled, "for a creature that cannot even lift a warblade." He stormed from the chamber, and with him went half the Dominion's warrior caste. Within 3 days, Kothrax had gathered the discontented broods beneath a black banner, declaring the choosing invalid. Worse, scouts returned with news that made even the Queen's Guard tremble. A devourer swarm, a mindless armada that consumed every world in its path, had turned its course toward Thren, drawn by the chaos of the Dominion's fractured loyalty. The hive stood divided exactly when it needed to be whole, and the observation tier updated its record again. Confirmed. Worst decision. Collapse projected within 1 cycle. In the War Council chamber, the remaining nobles argued in furious clicks and hisses while Kale stood at the edge of the map table, silent, studying the swarm's projected path. Lady Sevri turned on him. "You have led us to ruin, outsider. What could a soft, blind creature possibly offer against extinction?" Kale did not raise his voice. "You're all still thinking like separate hives," he said. "That's exactly what beat the last 3 worlds this swarm ate. I've read your battle logs. You've never once fought together with Kothrax's broods since the split. I can fix that, but only if someone here is willing to trust a human enough to try. When the Devourer swarm finally broke through Thren's outer shield ring, black clouds of consuming drones descending like a plague, Kale did something no Kryllion had ever done in 10,000 years of hive politics. He crossed the battle lines alone and unarmed, walking straight toward Kothrax's rebel camp under a white flag stitched from his own uniform. "Your queen chose me because I would tell her the truth," he shouted over the war horns. "Here's the truth now. You can hate me after we're all still alive. Fight beside your Dominion today, or there won't be a Dominion left to reclaim tomorrow." Something in Kothrax's ancient warrior pride recognized the courage in that walk more than any words. He raised his blade, not against Kale, but skyward, rallying his broods back toward the Queen's banner. Under Kale's coordination, translating tactics between castes that had refused to speak to one another since the rebellion began, the fractured Dominion fought as one force for the first time in memory. Human strategy, patient and adaptive where Kryllion pride had always been rigid, found the single gap in the swarm's hive-mind coordination and drove a spear of coordinated fire straight through its core cluster. The Devourer's swarm scattered, then died, unraveling into dust across Thren's crimson sky. When the smoke cleared, Queen Veskera found Kale kneeling not in triumph but exhaustion, having given every shred of strength he had to save a world that had called him worthless 3 days earlier. She knelt beside him, before her entire surviving court, and said, "Let the archives show that the Dominion did not choose weakness. It chose the one voice honest enough to unite us." Far above, the ancient record-keeper of the observation tier paused over Thren's file for the first time in 3,000 cycles and quietly amended its verdict. "Correction," it recorded. "Species designation human. Reclassify." This was not the worst decision this tier has ever witnessed. It was the only decision that mattered. And across 10,000 watching worlds, for the first time in the tier's endless memory, the humans had been chosen, and the humans had been right.